Who's the stupidest person you've ever met, and what story perfectly sums up their stupidity? I've posted this story before, but this seems like another appropriate thread for this story. One night during high school, my friend and I got invited to a party. I didn't drive back then, so my friend picked me up. All went well on our way to the party. On the way back, however, he got pulled over. As we were pulling to the side of the road, I told him that I was gonna pretend to be sleeping, since I was the passenger. Anyway, I hear the cop get out of his cop car, walk towards our car, stops at the window but doesn't say anything. I can feel the brightness of his flashlight, but I don't hear him or my friend say anything. After about what seemed like an eternity, I decide to open my eyes to see what's going on. That's when I see my friend, the guy who is driving, is pretending like he is sleeping too. Guy the first went high school with was at a party and asked the homeowner if he could have her tattoo kit. She obviously said no. He left and came back an hour later with a ski mask on, demanding for the tattoo kit. Was arrested the next day. Can't make up that kind of stupidity. This girl I used to work with before she got fired. One day she came to work with a broken arm and claimed her boyfriend pushed her during a fight and she fell. We all were super concerned for her until she came in a week later saying she stabbed her boyfriend in the hand during a fight to get back at him for breaking her arm. Then a few weeks later she told everyone she was secretly trying to get pregnant, because if she got pregnant her unemployed boyfriend would have to get a job and help pay rent. She got pregnant and her boyfriend immediately dumped her. I worked with a man named Roy. Roy had theories about how to live life. Royconomics. One day, he turned to me and the other member of the crew. "You boys wanna know how you get nice things?" he asked. "You go to the store, and you finance everything. New furniture, new appliances, televisions, stereos, everything. Then, you don't make any payments, and you don't show up for your court date. They'll end up garnishing your wages, but they take way less than the payments would have been. Then, about a week later, you boys wanna know how you buy a house? You apply for every credit card you can possibly get, you take out your entire balance in cash from all of them, and you use that for your down payment. Then, you don't make any payments, and you don't show up for your court date." For people thinking that they may know this specific Roy, I last saw him 10 years ago. At that time, he was in his early 50s, was rocking a gray, blonde skullet, and lived in a hamlet in the province of Saskatchewan. "Hey guys, wanna know to get out a fraud conviction? Sings, I got off on a technicality. I can sum it up very easily. We were at the shooting range, his gun jammed, he looked down the barrel to see what was wrong. I almost dated a girl who thought the sun and moon were the same thing." Edit, JEEZUS. Did this post blow up? Prior to this post, I'd be lucky if I had less than 10 responses. Edit number 2, after seeing how many people have had similar experiences, the lack of basic, and I mean basic, astronomy throughout the world is kind of disappointing. My friend's sister was 20 and pregnant. She said something about how upset she was her vagina would be ruined. I jokingly said, "Maybe he'll come out of your butt instead." She said, "What do you mean? Can they come out of there too?" I thought she was joking, so I just said, "Duh, it's a 50-50 shot." She thought I was serious and asked her doctor if he could tell if the baby was gonna come out of her vagina or ass. Edit, I know technically you can tear from your vagina to your ass in labor, meaning technically, since it kinda becomes one hole, that the baby would come out of the vag-ass hole, but she didn't think this. She thought she would shit the baby out. Edit number 2, since I've been a few people bring it up, she figured out I was just fucking with her. She told her sister, my friend, what the doctor said, and my friend told her that I was joking. Edit 3, should also mention there's a 30% chance it may be her first cousin's baby. She told me they only made out, but her friend let it slip that they'd been banging. A guy in my high school who was convinced that the Dutch had sore throats at night from their accent, language. My sister, who carved a swastika on her own arm. Oh dear. It wasn't even symmetrical. Sieg fail. The first time I met Ben was in Improv 101. I was only taking the class for fun, but about half the people there were aspiring actors, including Ben. On the first day, the teacher had us all play this silly game to break the ice, and so we'd all remember each other's names. The rules are pretty simple. 1. Pick an adjective that starts with the same letter as your first name. 2. Introduce yourself using adjective plus first name. And 3. Do a simple gesture that goes with it. So everyone is going around the circle, introducing themselves as Daring Daniel and Lonely Lauren and Awesome Alex, until we get to Ben. Ben introduces himself as Surfer Ben. He proceeded to misunderstand at least one key element of every game or exercise for the rest of the class. I have no clue how this man functions in daily life. He has since managed to get a few featured extra roles on TV, though. Back in my younger and crankier days, I worked with a young woman who was hands down the dumbest person I've ever met. Her highlights include winning a basket auction that included a copy of the Beach Boys album Pet Sounds and complained because she didn't want to hear a lot of mooing. On a day she was driving me up a wall, I convinced her to wait to open her bottle of Coke because the bottle said there was a winner every 5 minutes. She was disappointed she didn't win after waiting exactly 5 minutes. I however enjoyed her sulky silence for the rest of the day. The worst one involved her chatting with a manager who was African American, she's white. They were discussing their shared slightly uncommon name and then realized their families both came from South Carolina. She thought for a few minutes and then excitedly exclaimed, "I bet my family owned yours." She was so proud of herself for figuring out that historic connection. The manager didn't say a word and just walked away. Oh God, the last one hurts. That last one. She had to be smart enough to realize how that took place but not smart enough to shut the fuck up about it. It indeed hurts. Coworker was anti-windmills. When I asked why, she said, "There are way too many popping up and we're going to use up all of the wind." I was speechless. I'm never speechless. My freshman year roommate dropped a class because he wanted to play his PlayStation more. It put him below the minimum credit threshold for his scholarships and his parents owed $40,000. He was smart enough to get scholarships, yet dumb to make that decision. Nice. My brother. He is genuinely the stupidest person I know. He has broke his arms 5 times, 3 for the right arm and 2 for the left. This is how he did it. 1. Age 7, dancing on a table, fell off. 2. Age 15, smoking pot with friend, cop shows up and he runs, jumps a fence, shorts get caught, he falls out of them onto his arm. 3. Age 17, runs in front of his friend's truck as it went down the road at approximately 30 miles per hour. 4. Age 19, was trying to hide from someone and jumped over a couch, and somehow broke his arm. I don't remember how he broke it the other time, I just know it's been 5 times. He was arrested for possession of a firearm when he is not legally allowed to own one. It was his friend's firearm. He pointed it at a cop. He got expelled from my high school. Twice. He got expelled from public school on the last day of school for writing "raped a pregnant bitch, call it a threesome" on a final. Note, these are rap lyrics, he did not actually rape a pregnant woman. He had 2 lines in a mandatory play. He still messed it up. While in prison he got a marijuana leaf tattooed on his face. Upon seeing him for the first time after prison he said, "Mom thinks I'm getting it removed but I'm only gonna make it better. I'm also gonna get Chinese lettering down my face. We are painfully white." He dropped out of high school before finishing the 10th grade. Not because he had to, just because he didn't like school and wanted to do drugs instead. He ended with a 3 in history, and a 6 in math. I don't know what his other grades were. When he was 15, my uncle was 30. It took half an hour to explain to him why he would not always be half of my uncle's age. He genuinely believed that the Ebola scare a couple years ago was the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. I am sure if I thought real hard I could come up with someone more stupid, but this story is pretty good. There was this receptionist at the veterinary office we have taken our dogs to over the years who argued with my dad about how to pronounce his own name. He went in to pick up some prescription something for our dog Daisy, and this girl asked the typical name of dog, name of owner type questions. "We have it listed as Michelle and you don't look like a Michelle," she says. Dad asked how it was spelled on the monitor and sure enough it was still spelled Michael, Dad's name. He said, "That says Michael. That's my name." And she argued with him about it. He had to get his driver's license out to show her, and even though she finally relented to let him pick up whatever it was he was down there to pick up, she was adamant my dad has been mispronouncing his own name for 50+ years. The best part is Dad tells us this whole story and we think nothing of it till like 3 months later when Mom took the dog in for a check-up. The girl still thought the owner of the dog was Michelle and that my mom must be in a lesbian relationship. Mom gently corrected the lady that it was Michael, and again this girl was adamant it was pronounced Michelle. Mom, bemused, said something along the lines of, "It's literally a name from the Bible. It's pronounced Michael and has been for thousands of years." The receptionist sat in silence outside of the minimal amount of talking needed for the rest of that visit. Edit, wow, this blew up. Woke up to like 200 responses, so I'll just respond here. Thanks for the heads up, the Hebrew thing. In hindsight that was silly. Makes me wonder when exactly that spelling started to sound like we say it today. Also, this is just my recollection of the story because I heard it all second-hand through the parents, so I'm sure I've embellished it without realizing, and this was all over a decade ago anyway. As for homegirl, she was very much typical white girl. My guess is she had a foreign friend that spelled her name that way and pronounced it Michelle, and she figured that was just the only possible way to say it. It's more the arguing over how to say it thing than anything else. Who argues with someone on how that person says their own name? My ex-husband. We were playing rock paper scissors to decide who had to go change the baby, best 2 of 3. Round 1, I throw scissor and he throws rock. I win. He proclaimed. Round 2, I throw paper and he throws rock. I win. He says again. Paper beats rock. I tell him. His response? No, rock beats everything. I spend like 5 minutes trying to wrap my mind around this. Finally I ask him, then, what's the point of even playing? In total sincerity he says, to have fun. Clarification edits, 1, no, sadly, he was not trolling me. He was completely serious. I know it's hard to believe, but in all fairness he was born and raised in Florida. 2, yes, I changed the baby. I did pretty much everything involving the baby after that. 3. As for my own level of intelligence and that of my son, I think he said it best himself when, at 4 years old, he said to me, "Daddy can't help it." What's your excuse? I can see why he's your ex-husband. The first time I ever met my future sister-in-law, she asked me, "If you're Canadian, how come you speak American?" She was 20 at the time. Edit, this blew up, since a lot of people mentioned this, she's my husband's step-sister, so there's no relation to him, me. Yes, it was a genuine question, I asked her about it later. She's not smart, sarcastic, or witty enough to make a joke like this. She is the living embodiment of the American stereotype you'd think of. Literally, this guy got fired last week for doing this. Whenever a customer would enter the store he would mimic everything they said. Whilst already bad enough, he would try his best to copy their accent too, no matter what accent it was. Multiple complaints to our store have been made about this guy and he had plenty of warnings. Well, last week he finally got fired while serving an Asian customer, and in full view of our manager he says this. "Herrroooo, would you like a brag?" Got pulled into the office where apparently he still maintained he'd done nothing wrong and couldn't understand why he was being fired. Definitely a dumbass. My mom's cousin was the getaway driver when his friends held up a 7-Eleven. He had some outstanding tickets at the time. As he was driving his moron friends home, he sped past a cop, who inevitably pulled him over. He defended his bad driving by telling the cop he was just the getaway driver. Then he got arrested. He has since been arrested for a series of other similarly stupid crimes. He also believes that there's a global cabal of Jews who are out to get him. Recently, he got a DUI, which got his license revoked. This was obviously because of the Jews and not because he decided to drive drunk past a police station. When he was denied a gun license, that was the Jews at work. I have no idea why he thinks a global cabal would be focused on some moron from Saskatchewan. Old coworker of mine. He was helping me move, and while we were carrying a couch he dropped it. Thinking he was hurt, I asked if he was okay, and with the most serious and frightening look in his eyes he said, pointing, "Look, it's the moon and it's daytime." He was 25 at the time. In grade 1, the teacher told the class that the moon only came out at night. The moon was clearly visible through the window, so I asked, "If the moon only comes out at night, what's that?" She replied, "Cheese," and also sent me to the principal's office for disrupting the class. That was 30 years ago and I still hold a grudge about it. Teachers that can't admit when they're wrong are infuriating. Had a teacher insist that stomach cannot be a verb. A fucking junior high English teacher. She was making fun of another, slower student who had to pick out the verbs in a word bank. I'll never forget her screech-ass voice. Maybe you should get up and stomach for us, Wendy. Come on. Everyone, let's all watch Wendy stomach herself. I went to look in the class dictionary and she practically threw herself at it to keep it shut. Edit, she also gave me detention for leaving my seat. I had to write, stomach is a noun, not a verb, 100 times. Mrs. Tina, you were a bitch. Am I the only student who refused to do these things when a teacher was wrong? I would refuse and let it escalate to a higher up. I had a math teacher get mad about how I wrote 4, had me fill a whole page with 4s. I then gave him a whole page of my own personal 4s, for reference when you have to correct my tests. I once called an Uber driver. When he arrived, he immediately asked me, "Are you going to X location?" I said, "No." He responded, "Great, because I'm not going to take you to X location." "Fine," I said. The journey got underway, and I was curious as to what he would have done if I'd said that yes, I wanted to go to X location. So I asked him, "Hey, what would you have done if I had said that I did want to go to X location?" He responded, "Look man, I'm not going to fucking take you to X location, okay? I told you already." I was a bit befuddled, but I tried again, No, I don't want to go there. In fact, you already know where I want to go, it's on your destination map. I'm just curious, what if I did want to go to X location? Would you have refused me the trip? Would you have driven off? He said, "Look man, I can't change the trip now. And anyway, I told you I refused to go to X location. You gotta understand I'm busy." We spent nearly 15 minutes with variations of this back and forth. He was a fluent English speaker, by the way. By the end of it, I was 100% convinced that he couldn't understand the syntax of a hypothetical. He literally couldn't understand the question, if X situation, which is not the case, then what action would you take? I wasn't even mad, just astonished. How had he navigated through life thus far? What were his financial decisions like? I really wanted to follow him home and make a reality TV show about him or something. You again? Look man, I'm not gonna take you there. The guy is 100% an NPC. I had manager named Roxanne, Rocky. She was a bleach blonde, literally bleached her hair once a month and then wondered why it broke, fell out bubble head who only had the job because daddy owned the restaurant. Rocky was really obsessed with her looks and not much else. One day she told me, and a coworker, that she had her nose job done so that her eventual children wouldn't grow up with the same nose as her. She wasn't kidding. The coworker and I just looked at each other and walked away. We knew it wasn't worth the effort. Guy stole a bike. Cop stopped him and asked where he got it. He said he stole it. Honesty 100. Reminds me of the movie The Invention of Lying. What are you doing here? Breaking into your house. You were supposed to be at work. Sorry, I got sick. I'll call the cops. Stay right here. Damn. Do you want a cup of tea while you wait? Oh, that would be really nice, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching our video. If you like it, please smash the subscribe and like button to support the channel so that we can create more quality content in the future.